Hello and welcome to Two Car Pros. Today we are going to be looking at how to put front brake pads and rotors on a 2005 F-150 6-lug.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do while the truck is still on the ground is we need to break it loose with a breaker bar and a socket. This is size 3/4 of an inch. And here's the part where it gets kind of tricky. These are aftermarket wheels. As you can see, these are not the stock Ford OEM wheels. And I don't know if the lug nuts are different size or not, so that's going to be up to you. Okay, so once the wheels have been broken loose, we can jack the truck in the air, or at least the front half, and get to work. Okay, now the truck's off the ground, enough so the tire spins freely, we can remove it. Okay, so now we need to remove the two bolts that hold the caliper onto the caliper support bracket. There's one here and one here, both 13mm. There we go, that's better. So you just need to break them loose and then they just kind of come out by hand. And they're both the same bolt size, so that's nice. Remove the caliper here. Might take some wiggling. Well, it was kind of stuck on there. I don't know when the last time these brakes were changed. Because I bought the truck used. And that's what happens when you buy things used. You don't know the maintenance records 100%. That's okay. So the next thing we need to do is remove this caliper mounting bracket. There's two bolts located on the back side here. I hope you can see them good. Okay, so the bolts we need to remove. That one and that one up there. They're 18mm. I recommend a socket and a ratchet as opposed to a wrench because you're going to need leverage. Okay, on this application, these bolts aren't really stuck on there, but if you just keep at them, maybe spray some penetrating fluid, they eventually come out. So those are the bolts. Those are big bolts. There you go. Now we can do the bottom one. Okay, so here's a tip. If you're having problems with the bottom bolt, you can thread the top one in a little bit. And that'll kind of hold it in place. Because this bottom one's a stinker. This one's not giving up without a fight. There we go. I knew we'd get it. There it is. Oh, what's on the threads? Maybe Loctite? I'm not sure. Never seen yellow Loctite before. Okay, and with that, the brake pads and caliper mounting assembly come out, so we can put that aside. We're going to need one of those brake pads later, so don't just throw those away. And now we can just remove the rotor. There's nothing holding it on. See? Okay, so the next thing we need to do, when replacing the brakes, we need to grab the old brake pad that you're not going to use. That's going to go into the trash. Put it back into the caliper, and we're going to use that as sort of a buffer between our channel locks and the pistons in the caliper, because we need to recess these back fully back into their housing. Okay, so now you can see that the brake pistons are pushed as far back as they'll go into their housings. Make sure to clean up any kind of debris you have fall off of there. Now we can move on to replacing the rotors. So here is our new rotor. It is Duralast, part number 54109. And I'm using these because my little local parts store didn't have any kind of Motorcraft or AC Delco ones that would fit this truck. So I'm using what I can get. Well, they look nice. They look good and they'll fit the truck. I'm alright with that. There's something we have to do. We have to use some carb cleaner. Brake clean will work too. We need to take the manufacturing grease off of the rotor, because if there's any of that grease still on the rotor, it can inhibit its ability to work, and obviously you want your brakes to work, right? So you need to do both sides. Clean this off well. Perfect. Now we can replace that. There we go. Don't worry about it not being flush or sticking to here. When you bolt the wheel on, the lug nuts hold it to the axle flange, so don't be too concerned with that. Okay, so now we can turn our attention to this bracket that holds your brake pads in place. Now my brake pads, they are a Motorcraft BR1083. They're semi-metallic, Motorcraft branded flat pads. So the first thing we're going to do is remove these. They're little slide pins. They kind of retain the brake pad in place. But I got new ones, so I'm going to use them. So I'll just pry those off. We're going to take the slide bolts out. Take these slide bolts out. See how gross they are? If your slide bolts look like this, they need a good cleaning and a re-greasing. Because if they don't slide freely, you're not going to get even wear on your brake pads. So, probably don't need to clean in here, but we definitely want to clean those slide bolts there. They just kind of snap into place like that. It's nice shiny hardware. Oops, other way. Other way again. There we go. Well, that's not right. You do want to make sure that they are lined up and centered. And you put them on correctly. And just like that. There we go. Looks nice. These are kind of nice because they have a little tang on the back of the clips here, and they really can't move any further out. You'd have to really want them to come out this way. They only go in and out by going inside and out, or in and then out. Okay, that works. So they only really go one way, which is kind of nice. Makes a lot of sense if you think about it. Perfect. That's exactly what it should look like right there. That looks great. And then we need to put these on. Like that. They're all the same. Yeah, it looks like. Okay. That back on. There we go. That's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and give these a good wiping. Good wiping. If you want to really clean these and carb spray out and make them all nice, it's not a bad call. See how nice and clean that is now? Excellent. Let's do the other one. Okay, so it's nice and clean now. Now for grease, I'm just going to use this general purpose Valvoline stuff. You don't have to be super specific with it. I know everybody wants a definitive answer, but sometimes things don't have super definitive answers. There's multiple solutions to one problem. I'm going to cover this with grease. Don't be afraid to use too much grease. I'm going to use a lot. There we go. That's looking good. There we go. It should look a lot like that. If my camera will focus. No? Not going to do it? Okay, well, there you go. I tried. And then we can replace that. Boy, that was hard. Okay, now we can replace our brake pad bracket. It's held in with those two bolts on the back, remember? Those are the 18mm bolts we need to tighten up. Okay, so here's what it should look like all finished and put back together. Backside here, you make sure all those 4 bolts are nice and tight, making sure that the brake pads are in their proper spot and that your rotor looks nice and clean. And next we need to replace the wheel. But we're not done after we finish this, so keep watching the video. There we go. So before we put the vehicle on the ground, we need to replace the lug nuts. You just walk them on as far as you can in a star pattern. Always, when you're dealing with lug nuts, always, no matter what you're doing, go in a star pattern. Okay, so once you've walked the lug nuts on as far as they'll go by hand, we can lower the vehicle back down and hit it with a torque wrench. Okay, so the torque spec for this wheel is 150 foot-pounds. So there we go, 150. may not be able to see it, but it is on 150. There we go. Lock that in place. And then when you're torquing, then make sure you're going in a star pattern. There we go. And there you go. Each wheel is torqued to 150 foot-pounds. Okay, we're in the driver's seat now. This part's important to make sure that the caliper functions correctly with the new pads. We need to push very slowly down. Fully down. And then fully back up. You don't want to go fast, you want to go slow. Nice and slow. The slower the better. Now you're going to do this a couple of times, or probably more like a few times, handful of times, until you get a very, very firm pedal. You want that pedal nice and firm. That means that your caliper pistons are pushing out fully and your brake pads are actually gripping your rotor, which is, you know, how you stop the car. So keep doing that until it is a very firm pedal. And then you need to brake in the brakes. I'm going to have a separate video for that. It'll be up in the card and the description, so make sure you check that out. Because braking in brakes is applicable to all vehicles, it will be its own separate standalone video.
Okay, so that's how you put front brake pads and rotors on your 2005 F-150. I'm pretty sure this also worked for Expeditions around that, you know, year range. But this is for the 6 lug axle, not the 7 lug. Because I do know they made a 7 lug version of that, but this is for the 6 lug, and I don't know if the 7 lug and the 6 lug are slightly different or something. So 6 lug. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to catch our future videos and our giveaway at 50,000. Tell a friend. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.